Okay, so I'm sure I'm not too unfamiliar to some of you here. I'm Keiran, and I'm joined by Raina, my wife, at the back, and Daniel Blyden. And we are part of a bigger team of people who have been training different churches, training different leaders, mainly around personal ministries. And so we've been invited by the personal ministries team who have seen parts of our training, and we've been requested. Just last week we were at Sheffield, next week we're at Ox Hill, and then the week after at Aston Newtown. So we've been quite busy doing the same training program. What you're going to see today is part one of the 3-part training program on how to do small group ministry. Now, before I continue, you hear small group ministry, you say, oh, I've done that before, oh, I've heard of that before. Whatever you have in your mind as to what small groups are, park that to one side, because I'm putting this to you, having experienced this myself, that in small groups, you can find many streams of ministries, be it health ministries, youth ministries, men's ministries, women's ministries. Even when it comes to small struggling churches, it's a great way to bring life back into the church. And for that reason, actually, one of the reasons we decided to not go with the term small groups, but life groups, was because of that same thing. It adds life. Jesus said he comes to give life and life more abundantly. So we like to call these groups life groups. And we're looking at a fresh new way, a fresh new look at small group ministry. The theme of Seminar 1 is Christ's method alone. Okay, here is a map of Birmingham. Maybe hard to see it because the image is a little dark. Okay, previous slide, previous one. So here is Camp Hill. So this is where Camp Hill is on the map. You're pretty central in Birmingham. If you go from the rotunda outwards, there's roughly 20 churches that surround Camp Hill, and it's the largest Seventh-day Adventist church. We've got the largest church membership. Okay, so it's kind of like a powerhouse. It's a main central point. And here's some statistics directly around the church. So you're probably familiar with this already, but I'm just showing you. So this includes the Sparkbrook area as well as the Camp Hill area, just across the Highgate as well. This is the area that you drive past, and I use that deliberately. You drive past to get here. In fact, raise your hand if you live with a short proximity to this church. Raise your hand. When I say short proximity, no more than 5 minutes walk. Okay, some hands go back down. 10 minutes walk maybe. Okay, so two of you, 3 of you. Okay, and do you know what we've done this in Divine Service before? And majority of the church members, especially on the larger churches, often travel from very far. I have some friends in this congregation who go to this church who come from Great Bar or in Tamworth. You have some people who are down by Woodshore, outside of Birmingham. And people travel far to come to the church of their choice. They pass probably 3 or 4 Seventh-day Adventist churches. I bet you know him. I do the same thing, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily, but there are pros and cons to that. It's useful living outside of the city, but the reality is the people directly surrounding the church, how are we doing with reaching those? Right, you can go to the next slide, please. No, previous one. Previous. The statistics. Thank you. So it says here 70% of people who live in this area are what? Muslim. That big red section on the circle is Muslims who live directly in this area. And so you would expect to see a huge AMR ministry at this church, right? There's a big thriving Adventist Muslim relations ministry here. Okay? Maybe. Who knows? And 13% Christian. And of that fraction of Christians, we're talking about people who live in the area, not churches present in the area. A smaller fraction, obviously, of Adventists we would see who make up part of that the Christian group there. But it's really interesting to look at that. We'll come back to that after. So we mentioned that the church is in the middle. Next slide. Next slide. So I put this picture here because this was a picture of me, Irena, and Tony. Some of you may know Tony Byrne from Aston Newtown Church. And that is, on our right hand side is Zakir, Ayaz. So three Muslim speakers, and there's a room full of about 50 to 60 young Muslims. This was their dawah, their teaching session, and we were invited there as Adventists to come and share, to give 2 lectures basically, back to back, on who we are as Adventists. This opportunity came about because of small group ministry. So many opportunities to come about, but I picked this one deliberately because I know you've got a big Muslim population. What am I doing? Am I asking you to invite us back to tell you how to do Adventist Muslim relations? No. I'm saying if you start simple and you start using your homes and small group ministry, great things can be achieved. And there was a really good response that we got from these guys, closer to your area actually, more towards Small Heath, where this was, in Green Lane. Okay, next slide. Then I started with small groups. The speakers were invited to our home. Next slide. I have a clicker? Brilliant. But hey, thank the Lord. Okay, so I'm going to show you some slides, some pictures. It's very visual. We like to show you pictures of stuff, things. So what do these pictures indicate? You see people doing outreach. When you think evangelism, perhaps these are the sorts of things you're thinking about. People giving out tracts or literature. Very important that work is, think in your mind, how, our method, how we're reaching people, if we're successful in reaching people. I'm making a statement here. Can I talk with you? Who are you? What does that tell us about our approach? When we try and reach people and we give them something and they refuse and we wonder why, I'm not saying that it's wrong to do that because some people will accept. But the reality is people are asking, who are you? Who are you? We've got this wonderful gospel that we've learned, this experience, this life-changing experience that we want to share with people, and the reality is, the way we're delivering that message to people is often compromised because we haven't got to know them well enough yet. How do we go about doing this? What's an effective way of looking at this? Before I even continue into looking at small group ministry, I'm going to show you this. So one day, there's a few problems with our church. So us as a people, we've developed this one-day-a-week Christian culture. Now, I want you to see these pictures, beautiful pictures. You may recognize the one on the right. Okay, Van Gogh's picture there. We see this as a wonderful piece of art. Jesus himself is trying to shape our characters right now. Yeah? And he sees us the full potential of what we should look like. So he envisions something like this in his mind. A wonderful picture. But when we only give him 1/7 of our week, he can only do this with us. When we give him only the Sabbath, but we don't give him the rest of our Sunday through to Friday, when he comes to try and shape our character or to paint a picture of ministry, when opportunities open up for you to reach out to your neighbours, your colleagues, your friends, your cousins, even your enemies, on a Tuesday, on a Thursday, I'm busy. But come to church on the Sabbath, God can only do this. What about this one? What does this say about our culture as Adventists? Let's read it. The whole church watched with nervous anticipation as the visitors sat where the Martins have sat for 42 years. Come on now. Every church can relate to this in some way, shape or form. That's my seat they're sitting in. But what am I addressing here? There is an underlying issue that we're dealing with here. What about this one? What does this one say? It's a bold statement I'm making here. What is he saying about us and our church culture? That's Jesus on the left, if you didn't recognize. Don't let him in. It will change everything, said the board. Well, of course we're not rejecting Jesus, are we? But in some ways, in some shape, we could probably say that, I wonder if Jesus has felt like this by some of our actions as church, or some of our lethargy as a church. Are we ready for change? You know, Pastor Simpson, the conference, NEC conference director, decided that he was going to get people together in 2013. A big group of people from each different area, people he had worked with in the past, people he knew were active in ministry, and he got them together to basically to restructure his department. But he started in a very unique way. He started with prayer and felt convicted actually, let's just start with what the problems are. And the problems that people started sharing were outside of the NEC, that Personal Ministries Department's remit. But they were good that we were sharing these things, and we were able to, over about 2 or 3 sessions, meeting all over the conference. We met in one location, I think Nottingham, most of the time, but not every time. And we put together this report. It started off detailed, and I've got it with me, got parts of it with me if you'd like to see it afterwards. It's fantastic, because we realised all of the problems that we saw that were wrong with our church, ones that you'll be very familiar with, were categorised into 3 areas. 3 distinct areas. 1, there was a lack of genuine spiritual leadership. And so every single point that came under that, certain things, and let's not talk about pastors, not just talking about elders, everyone who's an officer forms a role in leadership, and everyone's meant to be a disciple. So if there's a lack of discipleship, there's an issue there as well. Lack of genuine spiritual leadership and what that looks like. There was Bible scriptures and comments and examples to go with it. And Pastor Simpson passed this on to the other directors in the conference. And also he met with the conference president and secretary. And I know that they've been making changes according to those. So it was a very useful couple of sessions we had. A lack of understanding of God, of our God-given mission as Adventists, who we are, our identity, was one of the issues, which was one of the categories of all the issues that we looked at. And the third one was a failure to put Jesus at the centre. Everybody. I'm going to tie this all together. So here we have Campo. And here's your homes, not in the Campo area necessarily. Majority of you live outside of the Campo area, north, east, south and west. And the church is in the middle. Now, small groups, come back to the groups now. The reason why I brought up the report is because one of the conclusions that the groups that we're meeting with Pastor Simpson came to is that we need to go back to encouraging churches to get involved in small group ministry. Because it will solve a number of the problems that had been addressed or brought up in this report. There was other solutions that were brought about too, and those things have been dealt with too. But one of those areas was small groups, and so since that time, Pastor Simpson's been forming a team or getting resources. He's been mentoring me and Raina and Daniel and others to give us a lot of support in encouraging and helping us to deliver this training package. And so that's how we've come to today. So coming to Camp Hill now. Here's the Camp Hill Church in the middle. What I often notice is when you go to a new area, so those who were around when Camp Hill first started, you didn't have this wonderful, lovely building. You had your home. And you open your home, and even churches now which struggle and they can't rent the building, they open their home for their prayer meetings. And they have sweet fellowship. There's that sweet buzz that they have. And what often happens is once you've got your big church, you save up all your money, and you get the big church, the whole ministry drops away. We've got the church now, let's just meet at the church. Now that has its pros, but it has its cons. And some churches which follow that pattern often struggle with retention of members because they haven't got the balance of the homes and the church together. Part of our presentation today is looking at the fact that there should be a balance of all three lines of ministry. The gospel work should involve personal evangelism, 1, small group evangelism, 2, public evangelism, 3. That's your church work on the right hand side. And the one-to-one work is on the left. Now, someone might argue, well, Keiran, I'm not sure this is biblical. The emphasis of small groups is not as much there in the scriptures as it is in other areas. I believe it is, and this hopefully will show that from the scripture today. And then we'll get you to do some exercises after as well. When positioned together, these three help to bridge a gap to bring people into the fold of God. So let's just have a look at the scriptural backing for this. So if you look in the Acts church, we see lots of examples of personal evangelism. I'm not going to go through all of those, but there was many times in Acts, throughout the book of Acts, from the start through to the end, where there was one-to-one ministry. There's no doubt that was a key component to how the church grew rapidly. Same with public evangelism, the church work, or the meeting at the temples and preaching. Or when lots of people got baptized at once through one sermon here and one sermon there. No doubt about it, a key part of our church ministry should be public evangelism. But look at this. There's equally as much evidence of where homes were used in ministry. And often we miss over. We see stories like where Jesus said to Zacchaeus, let me come to your home. Many times where Jesus went or requested to go to a home, he could have just shared the message he had to share there and then, but he didn't. And we don't look at the reason why, we skip over them. But it's very significant. And here we see the same thing in Acts, from house to house, or Lydia's house. So when they went to meet Cornelius, all of a sudden all the family has been baptized because of what happened in the home. My question is, what happened in the home? And if we can delve into how to run, anyone can open their home, but how to run small groups effectively, then we're really onto something, church. Okay? Actually, from the beginning of time, I like this Pastor David Cox, it's an inventive pastor, who's written a book, Think Big, Think Small Group Ministry, Think Small Groups. Think Big, Think Small Groups. Very good book. It's just a really short one. You can download it for free online. So if you used to Google Think Big, think small groups, you get the whole book up. If this is something you really want to run with, and you don't want to wait for some training, you just want to get on with it, there's some fantastic advice in there as well. Okay, I'm going to just pick out some things that he says in the 2nd chapter. So the divine blueprint, he goes through a timeline from the beginning of time up until today, why small groups are important. He starts with the first family. The family unit was the first and most important small group ordained by God. The Exodus, we see Jethro advising Moses to break everybody into small groups. And the reason was given to not weary the leaders. It was really effective. Groups of 10 actually was chosen. We have Jesus. How many did Jesus decide to pick? 18? 12, thank you. 12. He picked 12, his own small group of 12. And you know, he even said in that verse there at the end, 22, 28, Luke 22, 28, Jesus even spoke about them being a support for him. Ye are they who have been with me in my temptations. That he was even, okay, they weren't facing all the time, but he was able to say that they had been there to help him as well. Powerful. Early church, of course, we see much, as we just looked at, many examples of the early church using small group ministry. Think about it. They didn't have no Bethel Convention Centre in the early church. So when Peter preached 2 sermons and 5,000 got baptised, and that upper room can only hold about 120, where did everybody go? To the homes. They must have continued in the homes. And not only did they meet in the homes, but they would have been able to be trained enough to run churches in the homes. You do the maths. What happened at the time of Constantine? Oh, okay, so we're familiar with the Sunday law, right? Or when the first civil law to worship on Sunday and it was changed from Sabbath to Sunday. We're also probably familiar with Christmas and Easter and some pagan festivals that was mixed in with some Christian themes, and the two obviously compromised doctrine. But also, what we often don't learn about with Constantine is he did something else. Around his time, you see it was the first time where they started erecting massive buildings. Remember, before that time, in great persecution, they couldn't meet publicly, so they met in the homes. And then all of a sudden, no, you can have your Christianity, but it has to be, this compromised Christianity was encouraged. And they had these massive basilicas, these big cathedrals, these big churches. What impact did it have on the faith of the people? Well, they stopped meeting in the homes, as I showed you before. They lessened the focus on home ministry, and broadened the separation between the laity and the clergy. So no longer was it now we're all members and we're all involved. No, we can all sit down and we have just one person leading at the front. And there was this separation. The minister then became the one doing everything, and everyone else just sat back and watched. Sound a bit like church today, church? Yeah? A few people doing everything. Majority of people doing nothing. Protestant Reformation. There was a revival. Howard Snyder mentions this quote here. He's a famous Christian author, Christian writer. Virtually every major movement of spiritual renewal in the Christian church has been accompanied by the return to small groups in private homes for Bible study, prayer, and discussion of the faith. It featured massively in almost every different movement, from Lutheranism right the way through to Methodism and baptism, as a Baptist as well. And again, the Seventh-day Adventists. Here's a quote from Sister White. She says, "The formation of small companies as a basis of Christian effort has been presented to me by one who cannot err." What church was Sister White from originally? Methodist. Oh, so she wasn't born an Adventist? No. She's a Methodist, right? And did you know that the Methodists, they used to have what's called barn meetings, or cottage meetings, which are small groups. Maybe a bit larger than the small groups that we are familiar with, but there was more. And it was actually the reason why she left, because the Adventist movement was exactly that. It was a movement of lots of different Christians. The reason why she was no longer a member of the Methodist Church wasn't because she was part of the Adventist movement. It was actually because she stopped attending one of the barn meetings. And one of the stipulations of the Methodist Church back then was that if you're not attending the small groups, then you're no longer part of the church. That's how much they emphasised. Charles and John Wesley emphasised small groups. And she speaks a lot about it for the Adventists. The Adventists used it heavily as well. We're going to look a little bit about that as well. Evangelical growth. So it's no secret that small groups have played a significant role in the growth of larger evangelical churches. If we look at the ones around Birmingham today, there's the Birmingham Christian Centre, or there's a Renewal Christian Centre by Solihull. And if you go on their website and you have a look, there's a whole database of, it seems like like almost 50 to 60 different small groups right across the region. You can pull up a map, you can find groups for women, groups for men, groups for youth, groups for this and groups for that. There's so many groups, and that's the foundation by which they're able to retain so many people. Now, by no means are we looking at what they're doing and copying, but I would put it to you that someone in those congregations have looked at what the scriptures are saying and starts copying the scripture, because this is something that is in the Bible. China. This is our church in China. For 27 years, since 1949, the church was banned. After they had the war with Japan, the leader said, you know what, they need to change some things, and so they stopped Western influence in many ways. One of the things, what that meant for the Assembly Adventist Church in China in recent times, it wasn't that long ago, was the Adventist Church was no longer able to operate. I'm telling you now, we're coming to a time close to that here. We can see that through laws that have been passed, equality, diversity. If you don't conform, we're just seeing around the corner, they're going to say you cannot register with the Charity Commission. And if that happens, then we cannot legally then collect money from tithe for employee pastors. And if we see that take place, then like what happened in China, the church will be forced into, the church won't close, but officially, legally it would. And we'd be forced underground. And that's what happened here in China, but for a different reason. For 27 years without leadership, it survived. And not only did it survive, it grew rapidly. And now today, do you know the largest Assembly Adventist church in the world is a church in China? You telling me, Keiran, that they went out without the leadership, without a conference in China, and it's now one of the largest memberships, and it also holds the largest church? Doesn't the largest church mean that they've done away with small groups? No. This church has about 3 services on the Sabbath, and it's actually a conference every week of small groups. They still keep their small groups in China, right across China. There's a network of small groups. Johnny Wong came to the NEC last year and he was doing lots of training of how to run small groups. Time of trouble's coming, as I mentioned. And so we're going to really need this. We're going to need to not just know how to do groups or to open our home, but how can we do this effectively? How can we, like we see in China, how can we last this time? And obviously in heaven, in Zechariah 14 verse 16 and 17, it says that families from year to year will come together to worship. And I like that. It's like a return back to the Eden model, where the families, as small groups again, back in God's ultimate design, will be coming together in their small companies to worship the Father. Worship the Father. One of my favourite quotes, Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching the people. The Saviour mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, and won their confidence. Then he bade them follow me. Ministry of healing. I really like what it goes on to say after it as well. She says something about too much time is given to sermonizing, and if more time was given to practically meeting the people, it's just amazing. You should check it out. It's Ministry of Healing, page 143. Okay? I said about the Adventist church, because some say, oh, well, this idea is from the Sunday church or so on. Actually, let's have a look. In Australia, 1885, Stephen Haskell, one of the pioneers, he arrives with only 5 families. He was only, I believe, 19. Is that right, Ren? He was 17. Thanks. He was 17 years old when he left. Now that's young. That's like 10 years younger than me. And he was married at that time as well. He left with 5 other families, but he was the leader of all of those. The SC membership in Australia was 0. 6 years later. So let's do a comparison to Camp Hill, okay? 6 years ago, how much has our membership grown? Oh, we've got 20 extra people. That's great. 6 years before, they had none, and now they've got 700. Wow! How did they do that? And multiple churches, but they didn't make their churches bigger than 150 seats, deliberately. Do you see it? Do you see the pattern? When Haskell wrote back to the General Conference about the great success that was taking place, he put it to home visitation Bible readers and cottage meetings. And he said that because they were doing that line of work, and through that line of work, bringing the house ministry or bringing the literature ministry, there's a lot that he documents about it in the reports to General Conference. Because of that, he's able to say that when they held the Bible lectures, loads of people came. And because friendships were developed with these people already, loads of people took on board the messages. The formation of small companies as a basis of Christian effort is a plan, don't miss this, is a plan that has been presented before me by one who cannot err. If there is a large number in the church, is there a large number here, church? Yeah? If there is a large number in the church, let the members be formed into what? small companies to work not only for the church members, but for unbelievers too. Do you know when I was talking to Pastor Simpson about the same concept, he shared something with me which I never really realised. He says, actually, a lot of the structures, the thoughts behind why we break into small groups, we have Sabbath school classes, and if that class is too big, we divide them to have smaller groups, don't we? Yeah, it aids the learning and development of the members. We have board meetings and committees and subcommittees. In fact, everything the Adventists do, its structure according to the church manual is based on this. But actually, because we've kind of lost the reason why, maybe they're not as effective as they could be. Effective small groups. She also links it to the Lithuania, the end time. The end time, well, read it. In visions of the night, representation passed before me. So she's seen a vision, okay? Of a great reformatory movement among God's people. Many were praising God. The sick were healed. And other miracles were wrought. The spirit of intercession was seen, even as was manifested before the great day of Pentecost. So she's not talking about Pentecost, but she's saying this time is like Pentecost. When I first read this, I thought, oh, she's talking about 1844. But look, she says, hundreds and thousands were seen visiting families and opening before them the word of God. There you have it. Hearts were convicted by the power of the Holy Spirit, and a genuine spirit was manifest. On every side, doors were thrown open to the proclamation of the truth. The world seemed to be lighted with the heavenly influence. Revelation 18 verse 1. Great blessings were received by the true and humble people of God. I heard voices of thanksgiving and praise, and there seemed to be a reformation such as we witnessed in 1844. So she's neither speaking about Pentecost nor 1844. She's looking into the future, and she sees a time that parallels both of them, where home ministry is used, and there is this excitement of our Christian faith again. And so I'm putting it to you that she may have seen your face when she saw this vision. She may have seen you and a few others opening the door and presenting these things to people in their homes. I don't know about you, but that excites me, just seeing that. And how she links it as well to Revelation 18:1. A loud cry. It's amazing. So let's look at effective life groups, effective small groups. What is a life group? Why do we call it life group? I've mentioned a little bit about already. When I say what a life group is, I explain it as this. People meet together for food, for fun, and for friendship. I usually stop there. I have a colleague, I say to them, come to a Bible study. They might come. I say, come to a prayer meeting. They might come. Maybe not. Come church. Yeah, I should come church, you know. But don't come. I say, come around my house. Yeah, wait, what's happening? Oh, we should have some food, some fun, you know, some fun, talk about some interesting things. Yeah, I'm there. When is it? Tuesday night, no problem. I'll cancel my plans. Come straight away. And when we look at what Jesus did, it seems to be the same thing. He even got criticised because of where he was eating and drinking, who he was talking with, and who he was hanging around with. Very important. We do that on a weekly basis, creating a welcoming environment for sharing prayer and discussing the scriptures. We use these three logos, these three icons, which represent these 5 icons, which represent 5 things we see in that Bible verse. So if you turn with me to Acts chapter 2, verse 42 to 47. Acts 2, 42 to 47. If someone could find that, I can bring you the microphone, you can read it. Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47. And as you read it, I want you to notice very carefully those 5 things that you see on there, repeated over and over again. Go on, Keiran.
And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, and in breaking of bread and in prayers. And fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done by the apostles. And all that believed were together and had all things common, and sold their possessions and goods, and departed them to all men, as every man had need. And they, continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, did eat their meat and gladness and singleness of heart, praising God and having favour with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved.
Thank you. Thanks, Keiran. So there you have it. Those 5 areas. Can you go back? Those 5 areas are repeated in that passage. And what I've noticed is there's a formula there And when I'm looking at different types of ministries that's been done, and they may not be as effective as they could be, sometimes it's simply because they're missing one of the growth components. Simply. I was speaking to one church group who wanted to do small group ministry, but none of them could agree on the time that they can meet. They all had a different day free to do it. And then they said the only day that we could do is Tuesday, but we've got our prayer meeting. And I said, how many people come to prayer meeting? Well, if you don't include me and my wife, they said, it's just about 1 or 2 extra people. So there's 3 or 4 people every week. I was like, okay. But are people free at prayer meeting time? Well, they say they are free. I said, okay, well, there's no reason why your prayer meeting can't be a small group. Where do you hold it? At my home. I said, okay, good. Do you have food? I just took him through. He said, at home, do you have food? No. Then I said straight away, do you think possibly people may be like after work, really hungry, and think, oh, they've got prayer meeting, get home, by the time they've eaten, the prayer meeting's already started and the turn up late, I'll just go next week. How about if you've got people to say, okay, let's have some food, and do that at the start, let's meet, if we have prayer meeting at 7:30, let's have some food from 7. Invite the church round. Oh yeah, the elder said. Simple. And as you go through each of those, okay, we've got the other elements there in prayer meeting anyway, but what you notice is, just to diagnose the problem in a ministry, sometimes you realise it's just missing one of those components. I've spoken to a young youth group, and they meet regularly, and when they meet, they about do their band practice. I said, why don't you turn your band practice into small groups? Have a bit of food, pray for each other before you start, and still do your band practice. Oh yeah. Sometimes it's so simple, but it's effective, and this is what we really want to look at. When we've tried to go exactly to what the scripture said, you'll see what happens. I mean, I'm going to pass to Raina now, she's going to share what happened with us when we started.
Hey everybody, I'm so glad to be back at my home church. So it's good to see familiar faces. Okay, so this is our experience with life groups. So how did we begin? We prayed and we invited friends. We planned ahead, we selected roles and homes. We started January 2014 and 50 people came the first time. This is because we invited our friends to come. So how did we overcome any barriers? The children were supervised and this increased attendance. So some people feel that they can't bring their children, they're going to be crying, they're going to be in the way. But we say they're welcome, we have our children ourselves, they can play together, they can pray together. And it's all good, so they feel welcome when they come as well. So the topics were chosen to suit people's needs. Now it's very important to ask people what they want to know about, because that's how it grows and people come because they want to learn what they want to know, right? So all the topics ultimately pointed to Christ. So every single topic that people bring, you can always relate it to Christ, because it's all about God's love, any topic. We rotated homes to make it easier for people to travel. Some people feel they can't really travel so far. They can't really get out really, and we go to their houses and we say, well, you know, you are welcome as well, so they feel loved and welcomed that we come to their homes. So how do we increase in size? We encourage people to invite their friends, and he says it's crucial because we tend to invite our own SDA friends because we think, well, they're going to want to know, they're going to want to listen. But what we did, we went out and we invited anybody for different faiths, beliefs, it did not matter. And people go for many different reasons, because they're lonely, because they want friendship, because they want food. You know, there's so many reasons why people come. So that really helped to increase the size. We included more fellowship time for Adventists to build friendship with non-Adventists. So how do we maintain a lovely environment? We introduced the outreach first by encouraging people to bring and share food with other members. People could see and feel the Christian love in action, and we promoted the health message through healthy food. So when we would get a healthy dish, people that are already inspiring to be healthy, they see our dish and they say, oh, I'd like to do that as well. So even things like that was really good. So how did we disciple? As the group grew, we provided training. We got people involved with leading out in study, prayer, the hosting, and managing the food. So it's basically learning on the job, really. They just watch us and they feel, yeah, I can do this as well. By February, we had 28 people. By April, we identified over 80 people people interested in small group ministry, and we had to split into 8 groups. So this is taken from Sabbath School Worker, page 1. It says, a work that many can do. The idea of holding the Bible readings is a heaven-born idea and opens the way to put hundreds of young men and women into the field to do important work which otherwise couldn't have been done. Now I can see that the youth are kind of gone today, but hopefully you pass this message on to them, that there's a lot of things that will not have been done without them. So we tried different types of groups. We tried barbecues, outdoor parks, question and answers. We tried different kind of things really. I had a women's group at some point. We split me, Keiran, and then I asked one member from the other group that we had to assist me. The group spoke on a more personal level. We gained support from each other, and we did outreach locally together and invited new friends to relevant church programs. Here's some tracks that we made as well. We gave them out just around the area. We didn't have to go into town to do things. We just did things around the area. It's very easy. So Keiran had a men's group. What he said is that he aimed at young men who had left the church. People had travelled from far. They prayed for their friends who had left church, and they invited their friends to attend. They had thought-provoking discussions. This is our house, and we had about 30 people in this house. So of course we knew we had to split at this time. And after the first series, before beginning the cycle again, every attendant was visited, contacted, and encouraged via one-to-one. So I choose to do texting or WhatsApp because it's easy for me to do. To date, we've welcomed 3 Muslims plus 2 foremen, 3 Catholics, 1 Sikh, 2 atheists, and 2 agnostics. We celebrated 5 baptisms and 4 weddings and 3 births. So that is a lot, and we just feel so privileged to be a part of this. So, yeah, that's the Keiran.
Amen.
Thanks, Serena. Just going back as well, something that I like to point out here as well. The quote that was mentioned from Sister White, where she speaks about young people. I'll point out that this is not exclusive to young people. But what you find is young people are often very free, they've got more time on their hands to do this type of thing. Now me and Raina, even though we're still young people, I'm actually feeling like I'm a little bit older now. The reason I say that is time isn't free at the moment. I juggle 2 jobs. We're quite busy, Daniel as well. In fact, the people who's leading these groups, they have work, they have bills to pay, they have things to rush around and do this, that and the other. And so we've gone past the age of university and having lots of time on our hands, but God has still given us a way or inspiration to do this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I know some of you may be thinking, how can I do this? How can I do this? Now, we do a follow-up session, a seminar 2. We haven't arranged any dates. We're just doing seminar 1 with you, but if that's something you wanted to look at, we can explain about how to run that effectively. We're very happy to do that. The other point I'd like to make is a lot of these pictures, in fact, all of these pictures are pictures we've taken. None of these are stock pictures from Google. Every single one is pictures we've taken from groups we've run. And in a lot of these pictures, there's a lot of non-Adventist people in there. A lot. There are some atheists, there's many in fact. The list that Lorena mentioned at the end are simply people who have come along and have continued to regularly attend. There are others, or friends of friends, who've come once or twice. So that second bullet point there, people just want to come where their friends are going. And the other point I'd make as well is there's a lot of people who come to these groups who are over their 50s. Okay, they may not be as featured in the photos, perhaps you may not be able to spot them, but for instance, if I can use, I don't know if you've got a light on here, but you see the gentleman on the left at the bottom there? So the one on the bottom row on the left, that's my colleague. He's in his 40s. And the gentleman next to him, in the red, goes to Renewal Christian Church. He's in his 50s. He's just a neighbour of someone. And the one on the left, he doesn't go to a church. There's about 18 people there who are non-Seventh-day Adventists, and they are older than us. And they want to come to these groups regularly. This is something that everybody can do. This is something that anybody can do. Young and old. So we can do a bit of an experiment now, and ask Daniel to come forward. Okay, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions. How should we do this? You see we've got a board here, right? So you've seen elements of the logo. Hopefully you feel, oh, maybe I can be involved in this type of thing. And I think I said this already. I think it's not good, but I think it's okay that some of the young people aren't here today in the commentary, because quite a few of the young people from this church have been involved in these groups. So Al Weber's son Daniel Weber is one of the life group leaders. He's been leading the group. And we've gone to his home and we've rotated it around Birmingham, and then you have others who used to come to this church, some young people who have been able to come back to God and to church through these groups. I don't need to go through all the names, but so some of the young people, they've already been coming to these groups, which is cool. It's you guys, and you guys are the homeowners. So if you're able to open homes, or you think, yeah, maybe this is something I can do, we're going to do a bit of a social experiment here. Yeah? We're not holding you to account, but we're going to ask you to raise your hand on a series of questions if you feel you can, and we're going to simply count. I'm going to need your help around to count as well, and possibly use your hand as well. So how many people right now are able to offer their home to this type of thing? I'm not saying we're coming to your home, but if you think, yeah, maybe if God, this is something you'd like to do, and you think your home is available to do this type of work, raise your hand if you think that your home right now is free. You don't have to check it with somebody else. Nice and high, please. We want to count your hands and write them on here. We're not taking your names. So we have 2, 3. Is that 3? 3 individuals. Oh yes. Okay, that's 4 people. So you can write 4. Second question, B. And the B is always those who are unsure. So how many people would like to offer a home, but first need to check with someone else, a significant other, or maybe need a bit more time to understand a little bit more about what it would be about? Raise your hand. So I take it everyone else who put their hand down is not interested. Okay, that's fine. Look up first. And then, how many people wouldn't mind helping to prepare food and this type of thing? People are coming around, or someone invited you around to their home. You wouldn't mind bringing some food or preparing some food? Raise your hand. Anyone got some good culinary skills here? Raise your hand nice and high, nice and high. Yeah? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And for those who perhaps aren't so skilled in the culinary side of things, maybe, or just too busy to make food, how many people feel they could buy something on the way to their friend's home to contribute towards or help to serve some food? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13. Got it. Okay, how many people are confident currently now, if they were invited to their friend's home, and your friend's colleague was there, or nephew was there, or whoever was there, you think you would be confident to pray with them on their behalf, even if you didn't know them? Oh, the hands are going up now. Let's count these hands nice and high. So start with you at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15. You catching this, yeah? That's good. And B, how many people would like to develop more confidence first before jumping to put their hand up on that one? So would like to develop more confidence first before starting to pray for people they don't know? Anybody? Okay. 0 down. How many people are confident right now to lead a Bible-based discussion? Notice that it's a Bible study. But you're confident enough to lead a Bible-based discussion. Yeah, you've got some friends around, you've been invited to some friend's house. You're confident to help lead on that discussion, Bible-based discussion. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Okay, then 10. 10 as well. Maybe not 10. Okay, and how many people here would like to learn how? Or to build your confidence? Maybe you've learned how, but you just haven't been able to practice enough. Raise your hand if you'd like to learn how to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Not going too fast, you know. No, cool. And then finally the outreach one. How many people right now can think of someone that they can either invite to a group, or they can think that it's a person in need that they can help to go and visit? You can think of someone in need. Raise your hand. Someone in need, or someone who even can invite to a group, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people. How many people desire to be more involved with practically helping others in need? You just desire, okay? Raise your hand. Nice and high, nice and high. Keep them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So, we leave this, when we do the training, we leave this with the church, okay? There's no names on here, so you haven't signed up for anything. But I'm just saying, just looking at those figures on that board, there's a lot you can see there. There's a lot of potential that you can run with. When you see this type of thing, of the resource that is available, when we're looking at small groups, what is available to the church, there's a lot of resource there. And obviously this isn't the full congregation, the full membership of the church. Daniel, you going to share a little about it?
Just to follow up what Keiran said. When we do this, we try to make the point that small groups. Well, I'll give you my little story. Like a couple of weeks ago, I think we did this in Sheffield last week, and as Keiran said, we're all kind of busy and we have a lot of stuff going on in our lives and things like that. And life groups was going to be held at my house, and I came home from work at like 6 o'clock Friday. And I knew that life group was going to be at my house, but I didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to be the Bible study, where the food was coming from, and who was going to lead the session. But Keiran and Irene just asked me, what's your address again? So I sent them my address and they pinged it out to everyone who's been coming to life groups, and I also sent it to a few people that I know. And about 12 to 14 people showed up. And before they showed up, I just thought, let me put some spring rolls in the oven and some samosas and things. And people brought stuff. People brought some salads and some little bits that went together. And the discussion, I wasn't sure who was going to host the discussion, but the Spirit led, basically. And it was a really, really powerful night because it was more us sharing our journey spiritually, the things that we maybe struggle with on a daily basis. We had a little icebreaker thing where Keiran put some different, I wouldn't say sins, but things that are like things that we may struggle with, so jealousy or stealing or things like that. Put them in a bucket and sent it around the group, and everyone picked out one, and then they spoke about an experience that they may have had with that thing, so it might be jealousy, something simple like that. And in just having those kind of conversations, we got to know each other on a real kind of level, and then we led it into some Bible discussion and spoke about Bible instances where people may have dealt with those same issues and things like that. So I'll tell you this story just to say that even simply opening your house, it can do a lot even for you and the people that come. So I'd encourage you to make use of whoever's put their hand up and made the commitment to try and make this happen, because you never know what can happen. It doesn't have to be super planned out all the time. Sometimes it's good for it to be very planned out, but other times the Lord can move and things happen that you didn't expect. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I've got a picture here of a tree. This is, well, 3 trees, okay? Just picture this as Camp Hill Church. Beautiful day, lovely lawn area. Nice. How do trees make more trees? There's only 3 there. Let's say we wanted 10. Actually, I think there's more, isn't there? Is that 2 trees on the right? It's 4 trees. A cluster of trees. How does a tree make more trees? Sorry? Seeds. So what happens with the seeds? Well, the seeds come from the tree, right? In what form? Pollination? Wind? Okay. What about fruit? Does a tree need to bear some kind of fruit? But where is the seed found? It's in a fruit, right? Okay. So let's say nobody goes and takes the fruit off this tree and takes it far. It just drops on the floor, the fruit rots, the seed falls and lodges in the ground, and as the seed dies, and then it kind of like God brings the life out of the seed, and it creates another tree, right? The tree then adds to that cluster, just naturally looking. Okay, so to make more of this cluster of trees, to expand the life of the church, we need at least one fruit. How many, if we look at this as a small group, often when we go to a congregation, we really like this idea, let's run with it. Let's just start with one group. Is that what a tree does? Does a tree just say, oh, I want one tree to grow, so I'm going to put out one fruit this spring? Is that what a tree does? Trees put out plenty, don't they? And every tree puts out plenty. The point is, everyone here, if you look at that bottom row, everyone here can do something. You may not be able to lead a big Bible study or preach a sermon necessarily, but you certainly can do something. And in doing something, you are bearing fruit, Jesus says, doesn't he? You are bearing fruit. And in bearing fruit, you are planting seeds, and you're expanding the growth of the church. A work that everyone can do. So after today's presentation, I'm hoping that you will be inspired to think, what part am I doing? What branch am I on this tree? And what is my fruit? What is my spiritual gift? What area can I serve in as well? Something that we often add into this presentation as well is this: we're not talking about doing something separate from the church. In the passage that Keiran read, it says they went from the temple and from house to house breaking bread. So there was 2 homes and there was a temple. There was more homes than there was a temple, but there was a temple. And so any group that's kind of detached from the church or is not connected in some way to the church leadership, there's no accountability from the leaders or support from the board or that type of thing, I say it's dangerous ground. But if you're going from the temple and from house to house and you're breaking bread, I believe God will bless what you are doing. I really do. And just looking at some of the things that's written here that I missed off here before, that in churches where small groups operate effectively, members grow more quickly in spiritual maturity, fewer leave by the back door, a deeper level of care and concern is experienced for church and community, spiritual gifts are more easily identified and developed, people with no church background are more easily won to the faith, and better cross-cultural understanding exists among members in the church. Definitely. And this is not something we're just reading from a book. We've tried this out, we're sharing with you our experience, and it's been amazing. It has been.